I noticed something was wrong before I ever saw a single worker. It was the sound. Not birds, not wind through the grass, not the low, steady breathing of cattle grazing at dawn. It was metal clanking, engines idling, and the sharp beep, beep, beep of construction equipment reversing. That sound does not belong on a cattle pasture. I set my coffee down so hard it sloshed over the rim and stepped out onto the porch, squinting into the early Texas sunlight. The pasture stretched wide in front of me, over 40 acres of rolling grassland, fenced and marked, cattle already moving slow and calm like they'd done every morning for years. Except today, bright orange construction fencing sliced through the middle of it like a wound. I just stood there, stunned, because running straight across my pasture, my land, deeded, surveyed, taxed, insured, was a half-mile line of plastic fencing, wooden stakes, and survey flags. Right through active cattle land. My first thought wasn't anger. It was disbelief, because no sane person would do this. I grabbed my binoculars and scanned the scene. There were workers unloading equipment. A skid steer idled next to a stack of gravel. A man in a neon vest pointed at the ground like he owned it. And beyond them, just past my fence line, sat the manicured lawns and identical roofs of Cedar Grove estates. The HOA. My stomach dropped. I'd known this was coming, eventually. For years, the HOA had been trying to beautify the area. Walking trails, community fitness paths, bike lanes. But every proposal stopped dead at my property line. Because my land wasn't common land. It wasn't HOA land. It wasn't unused. It was a working pasture. I didn't even change my boots. I walked straight down the hill, crossed the fence gate, and stepped into the pasture as a confused cow lowed nearby. "Hey!" I shouted. The workers froze. One of them turned, clearly startled, like he hadn't expected the land to talk back. "Who's in charge here?" I demanded. A man in his 40s stepped forward, clipboard in hand. "Sir, this area is scheduled for development. You'll need to stay clear for safety." I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was insane. "Development?" I said. "You're standing in the middle of my cattle pasture." He frowned. "This is HOA-approved greenway expansion." I pointed at the nearest cow, chewing grass 10 feet away. "That's a 400-pound animal. This is not a greenway. This is livestock land." He looked uncomfortable now. "We have permits." That's when anger started to creep in. "From who?" He hesitated. And that hesitation told me everything. By the time the HOA president showed up, the pasture was restless. Cows don't like unfamiliar noise. Engines, shouting, strange men pounding stakes into the ground. They bunch up, they watch, they get unpredictable. And unpredictable cattle are dangerous. The HOA president, a woman named Linda, stepped out of her SUV like she was arriving at a ribbon-cutting ceremony. Sunglasses, clipboard. That confident HOA walk like the world exists to be regulated. "Sir," she said sharply, "you're interfering with an approved community project." I stared at her. "Linda," I said slowly, "do you know where you're standing?" She gestured around. This land was marked as unused pasture. Unused. That word hit me like a slap. I felt my jaw tighten. "Those cattle," I said, pointing, "are not decorative." She scoffed. "They're fenced. Residents will remain on the path." I stepped closer. "You built a bike path through the center of a grazing route." She crossed her arms. The survey showed no active use. That's when disbelief turned into pure, boiling anger. "No active use?" I snapped. "This land feeds families. This land raises animals. This land has been worked every single day for over a decade." She waved me off. "Sir, the HOA owns easement rights." That sentence changed everything. Because it was a lie. There was no easement, no agreement, no signature, no compensation. I knew because they'd tried to get one 3 times, and I'd said no 3 times. I pulled out my phone. "Call your lawyer," I told her. "Now." She smirked. "You can't stop progress." I looked back at my cattle, then at the workers, then at the thin plastic fencing pretending to separate suburban joggers from half-ton animals with horns. "You're about to stop something," I said quietly. She rolled her eyes, and that was the moment I decided to let them finish. The HOA announced the bike path opening like it was a victory parade. Facebook posts, flyers, balloons. Safe, scenic, family-friendly. I watched from my fence line as the ribbon went up. Linda smiled for photos. Residents cheered, and then they opened the gate. The first cyclists rolled in, slowly at first, then more. Kids, parents, strollers, joggers with earbuds. And the cattle noticed. Cows don't understand bike paths. They understand movement, territory, and threat. The herd lifted their heads in unison, ears forward. Bodies shifting. A jogger laughed nervously. Are they supposed to be this close? I leaned against my fence, waiting. One cyclist veered too close. A calf bolted. That's when chaos erupted. A cow charged, not aggressively but defensively. Screaming. Bikes crashed. People ran. Someone fell into the gravel. The orange fencing snapped like it was made of paper. I stepped forward and raised my voice. Everyone back. They finally listened. The HOA president turned pale. Call it off, she screamed. But it was too late. Animal control arrived, then the sheriff, and then OSHA. The pasture looked like a war zone. No one was hurt, but everyone was shaken. And the question echoed loud and clear. Who approved this? The HOA tried to blame me, said I was negligent, said I allowed cattle near a public path. My lawyer smiled when he heard that. Because public paths don't magically appear on private land. The lawsuit backfired so hard it was almost sad. Surveyors testified. County records were pulled. Emails surfaced. Turns out the HOA knew there was no easement. They assumed I'd cave. They assumed I wouldn't fight. The county fined them. OSHA fined them. Animal control fined them. And then the insurance companies bailed. The bike path was shut down permanently. The HOA president resigned, and Cedar Grove Estates paid for every inch of land restoration. Grass replanted, fences rebuilt, gates reinforced. They even paid for new cattle shelters. Today, the pasture is quiet again. Cattle graze, birds return, and at the fence line closest to the HOA, there's a new sign. Big, clear, unmissable. Private active cattle land. No trespassing. This means you. Residents slow down when they pass. They don't complain anymore. They don't assume. Because they learned something important. Progress doesn't erase ownership. And bike paths don't outrank reality. Especially when reality weighs 1,400 pounds and doesn't care about HOA newsletters.